welcome to my review of the Benelli TRK 502, a new A2 licence friendly, adventure, or more accurately, dual sport motorcycle. Over the past few years, adventure bikes have become more and more popular. Initially I didn't understand why. I thought there might be a bike that's a jack of all trades but master of none. However, having bought and lived with a Suzuki V-Strom DL650 for nearly 2 years now, I totally get why this style is so popular. Rather than having to have multiple motorcycles for different occasions, an adventure bike just does everything you want. If you're doing a week-long touring trip, you just put the panniers on, load it up, and it's a really great, comfortable touring bike. For commuting, then you can just keep the top box on, and then you can easily take your laptop, a change of clothes, that kind of stuff. That's exactly how I use mine, and it's also manageable and able to filter. And if you just want a Sunday morning blast, then remove the panniers and the top box, and it's great for that too. One thing with adventure style bikes is that the looks often divide opinion. People tend to either love them or hate them. While I had this Benelli, I put a picture up on social media. One person came back said it was the best looking bike they'd ever seen, yet another came back saying they absolutely hated it and it looked like a child had designed it. I personally really do like the look of adventure bikes, and the TRK 502 is very much on the current trend of adventure bikes. So it has the pronounced front beak, and it has the rear mudguard behind the rear wheel rather than attached to the sort of tail of the bike. When you first see the TRK, and most adventure bikes, it looks tall and pretty big and intimidating, especially to a fairly new rider. It's not at all though, once you get on it and get riding. I was out on the bike riding all day and found it really easy to ride and really well balanced. The riding position, as you expect, is very upright and really comfortable, and the seat's really well padded too. And talking of the seat, for this style of bike is actually fairly low. You sit quite low, the tank's quite high, but you actually sit quite low. It's 800mm high as this one. I'm 6 foot tall and I could easily have both feet flat on the floor when I was stopped. Something I'd read before riding it is that the bike was heavy. I didn't find this at all though, even when manoeuvring the bike, pushing it with my legs backwards while parking. I did a bit of research online about this, and it appears there was a mix-up in the initially released specs of the TRK. The initial spec said it was 235 kilos dry, which is just shy of like a 1200 GS BMW, but it's actually 213 kilograms wet, so that's a huge difference and a bit of a mistake when they originally announced this. And for a largest bike with a big 20 litre tank, it's not actually that heavy anyway. For comparison, my V-Strom is slightly more at 220. I do think that some of these initial reviews were skewed by this perception of it being heavy because of what people have read ahead of actually riding one. As far as comfort is concerned, the bike has really good wind protection from a decent sized screen, and that even includes the wings at each side, so it really keeps the wind off you completely. The screen isn't adjustable though, which I had expected, but for me at least it worked really well at just keeping wind off me completely. There was no buffeting or anything. I actually found it to be better than my V-Strom, even when sat behind the trucks in dirty air. The mirrors of the bike work really well too. Positioned nice and wide, and I could easily see beyond my shoulders. There was no vibration through them or shake, and they always had a really good view behind. All the switchgear on the bike's pretty decent, and the standard equipment you get is really impressive. The dashboard's an LCD, which works well even in strong sunlight, and this LCD display includes things like a trip meter, a proper fuel gauge, the clock, those kinds of things. Off to the side's an analog rev counter too, and that combination works really nicely. Around the rest of the bike there's loads of standard kit. You get handguards, a touring screen, a USB port, engine guards, top box rear rack, and even side pannier carriers, so it's really well spec'd as standard. So what's the engine and ride like? The engine's a water-cooled 499cc twin. Putting out 49 horsepower, so it's A2 licence friendly in the UK. This doesn't sound much for what looks like a largish bike, but I actually found it to be fine. Remember that this bike's made for comfortable touring at a reasonable pace rather than for blasting around track days. The engine is really free revving and delivers its power nice and smoothly. The exhaust makes a decent noise too without it being overly loud. I even had pops and crackles from it on overrun down a fairly steep hill at one stage, which was obviously quite fun. Handling wise, the bike always felt sure-footed and well balanced through corners. It has chunky forks on the front and an adjustable rear monoshock. I found this suspension setup to work really well at soaking up the bumps and it gives a really comfortable ride. There was only one section throughout the day on a particularly poor section of road where it struggled to keep on top of things. Onto the price. This is where things get really interesting. Brand new, this bike's only around £5,000 on the road, and that's with its 2-year warranty and everything that a sort of new bike comes with. There really isn't any other adventure type bike that I can think of that can compete with that price point. The closest is probably the Honda CB500X, but that's over £1,000 more for a basic spec bike. Once you add all the extras that I talked about earlier that the Benelli has as standard, you'll be looking at quite a lot more on top of that. So there really isn't anything comparable. As usual with my reviews, here are the 3 things that I like best about the TRK. 1, its comfort. 2, the great wind protection. And 3, the price, especially with all those extras as standard. The only negatives I found were that both the clutch lever and brake lever had quite a long reach, though the brake lever is adjustable. There was some vibration through the foot pegs at higher revs, and the rear brake wasn't brilliant. But none of these were really major issues for me though. So in summary, I think the TRK is a really good bike, especially for the money. I think it would be well suited to new riders or A2 licence holders who really want an adventure bike or something they can tour on. Or indeed anyone who wants this style of bike but doesn't want to spend upwards of £13,000 on something like a BMW GS. Finally, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the Benelli dealer who lent me the TRK to review it. This is Ride Motorbikes, who are based near Keighley in Yorkshire. Do please contact them if you're interested in seeing or buying any of the Benelli brands.